New York's most powerful political machine just spent 48 hours fighting itself, and the voters are the ones caught in the crossfire.
It sounds like a script from a bad reality TV show, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
this is, unfortunately, the government of New York State.
And we're footing the bill.
We are.
We really are.
Uh,
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a stack of reporting that covers, a truly wild 48-hour period in New York politics.
Yeah.
We're talking February 2026. We're talking about the Brooklyn Democratic Party, Governor Kathy Hochul, and a level of dysfunction that is honestly hard to believe, even for New York.
It's a classic case study. It really is. It shows you what happens when a political monopoly starts to, crack.
Right.
We've got articles here from City and State, Patch, Hellgate, and they all paint the exact same picture.
Yeah.
It's a story about ego, about power, and a total lack of focus on the people who, actually live here.
So let's set the stage, because this all moved so fast. It's February 2026. Governor Hochul, she's running for re-election.
Right. Doing fine in the polls.
Doing fine. She decides to pick a running mate, her candidate for lieutenant governor, and she picks Adrienne Adams, the former speaker to the city council.
Okay. And in a normal world, this is the boring part, right? The governor picks a partner, everybody smiles for the camera, and they go campaign. It's supposed to be a unity moment.
But that is definitely not what happened here.
Not even close.
Instead of unity, we got a total explosion, specifically inside the Brooklyn Democratic Party.
An absolute meltdown. So on a Wednesday, the party bosses in Brooklyn, they're led by the chair, Rodneyse Bichotte Hermelyn, they hold an emergency meeting.
And they were not happy.
They were furious. They voted to actually rescind, to take back their endorsement of the governor.
Wait, hold on a second. They unendorsed the sitting governor of their own party? Just because of who she picked to be her running mate?
Exactly. They blew up the alliance. They basically declared war on the head of their own ticket.
Wow.
But then, and this is why it's so embarrassing, less than 48 hours later, by Friday morning, they panicked. They realized they'd made a huge mistake.
And they re-endorsed her.
They re-endorsed her.
So Wednesday, they hate her. By Friday, they love her again.
Precisely.
That is just, it's messy.
It's chaotic. And that's what we need to unpack, because this isn't just gossip, This tells us something pretty scary about the people running the state.
Right. If the party in charge can't even agree on a candidate for 2 days,
Yeah.
how are they supposed to run a government?
That's the big question.
Feels like they're all playing a game and the rest of us are just trying to live our lives.
Yeah.
So let's get into the why. Why did the Brooklyn Democrats throw this tantrum? Was it policy? Did Governor Hochul propose some tax hike they hated? Or was it about crime stats?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd hope a political fight this big was about something that actually affects your wallet or, your safety.
Sure.
But looking at the reporting, it wasn't about policy at all. It was about territory.
Territory, like what with borough lines.
Political turf. Pure ego. The sources say the chair, Bichotte Hermelyn, was enraged, and her big complaint.
What?
She wasn't insulted.
She didn't get a phone call. That's what this was about.
Basically, the complaint was a lack of a heads up. Governor Hochul picked Adrienne Adams, who's from Queens. And the Brooklyn leadership took that personally. They felt slighted.
Okay, let me get this straight. Because the governor picked someone from the borough next door, from Queens, the Brooklyn bosses decided to try and sabotage the entire state ticket.
That is exactly it. You have to understand the mindset of a political machine. Brooklyn has the largest delegation of Democrats in the state. They think of themselves as the kingmakers.
Right.
They feel entitled to that lieutenant governor spot. They wanted one of their own people in there.
So who were they pushing for? Who did they think deserved it more?
Well, the names floating around were people like the DA, Eric Gonzalez, or Assembly member Brian Cunningham. They wanted a Brooklyn loyalist.
Okay.
So when Hochul picked someone from Queens, they didn't see it as a strategic choice for the state. They saw it as an insult to their power.
It sounds like a gang turf war, not a government proceeding. Like, you didn't respect the family, so now we're going to war.
It is a turf war. That's a perfect way to put it. And it gets even pettier. The reporting says that during this emergency meeting, Bichotte Hermelyn was telling people that Adrienne Adams was bad for Brooklyn when she was city council speaker.
Bad for Brooklyn. What does that even mean? Was she bad for New York City? Or bad for the economy?
Well, the implication is that she was bad for her turf, bad for the machine's influence. It highlights this intense parochialism. They aren't thinking about who's the best person to help lead the state. They're thinking, Did our club get the prize?
And when the answer was no, they tried to burn the whole house down. It really paints the leadership as incredibly small.
It does.
You have the governor of the state making a decision, and the local party machine tries to veto it because their feelings were hurt.
And you have to remember, this is a machine that demands total loyalty from voters. They expect you to show up and just vote D down the line no matter who's on the ballot. But the moment they don't get their way, they're willing to walk away from their own governor. It shows you where their loyalty actually is.
It's to themselves.
Exactly, to themselves.
It's the definition of the swamp, isn't it? Just insiders fighting over scraps. But okay, let's shift gears for a second. We've talked about the ego, the you didn't call me part. But what about the candidate herself? Adrienne Adams. The Brooklyn party was mad she wasn't from Brooklyn. But is she actually any good?
That's the other fascinating layer here. If you look past the turf war, there's a real question about competence. And this isn't just, Republicans or outsiders saying it. This is coming from inside the Democratic House.
Right. I saw a quote in the notes that really stuck out to me. It's from Assemblymember Coleman Yeager. He's a Democrat, right? A district leader.
A Democrat district leader. And he did not mince words. He said, and I'm quoting here, "There is no one who can say with a straight face that Adrienne Adams is ready to be governor on day one."
Ouch. With a straight face. That is brutal coming from your own team.
It's brutal, but it raises a really serious point that I think gets lost in all the drama. The lieutenant governor isn't just some ceremonial ribbon cutter.
No.
We tend to ignore that role, but if something happens to the governor, they're in charge. Immediately.
And we have seen that happen in New York recently.
Right.
More than once.
We absolutely have. Hochul herself took over when Cuomo resigned. Before that, Patterson took over for Spitzer. In New York, the spare becomes the heir pretty often.
So the most basic qualification for the job should be, can this person actually run the state? Can they handle a budget crisis? Can they lead?
Exactly. And here you have party insiders admitting out loud that they don't think she can. They don't think she's ready.
But the party leadership, Bichotte Hermelyn and her crew, they didn't lead with that argument, did they? They didn't come out and say, we are blocking this because she's unqualified.
No, that was a secondary complaint, almost an afterthought. The main thing was the lack of consultation, the disrespect. But the fact that her qualifications are even in question tells you so much about how these picks are made. It's not about finding the most competent leader. It's about checking boxes and balancing regional power.
It's about whose turn is it, not who is best for the job.
Precisely. And that leads us right into the identity politics of it all. Because reading through these articles, this whole situation feels like a circular firing squad.
That's a great visual for it. The Democratic coalition is built on all these very specific identity groups. And usually, they try to present a united front. Hochul and Adams were being sold as this historic ticket.
The all-female ticket, right. First time in history.
Breaking the glass ceiling. But look at what happened the second that power was at stake. That solidarity just, it evaporated.
It was completely gone. I mean, look at the quote from Councilmember Crystal Hudson. She went right after the party chair. Directly.
Yeah, read that one. It was shocking.
She wrote on social media, "Never has a black woman worked so hard to tear down other black women." And she was talking about Bichotte Hermelyn attacking Adrienne Adams.
Wow. So you have the identity politics card being played against the party leader herself by another member of the party.
It just exposes the fragility of the whole thing. The left talks constantly about unity based on race and gender. They say these bonds are the most important thing. But here, you have a historic ticket to women, and the party machine tries to destroy it because of a borough rivalry.
It seems like when push comes to shove, political power matters a whole lot more than the identity politics they preach to the voters.
100%. The principles go right out the window when they become inconvenient. It just turns into this cannibalistic fight where everyone is accusing everyone else of betraying the cause.
And meanwhile, the average voter is looking at this thinking, do any of you care about the price of groceries? Or crime on the subway?
It really feels like they're living in a bubble where the only thing that matters is who sits at the head of the table.
Speaking of rules, I want to talk about how this decision actually went down. We talked about the tantrum on Wednesday, but was this some kind of democratic process? I mean, this is the Democratic Party. Did they take a vote of all the members?
Hardly. This gets to the machine aspect of the Brooklyn party. It was a classic backroom deal, or at least an attempt at one.
I read about a district leader named Luke Olson. He was not happy.
No, he wasn't. He was literally locked out of the meeting.
Locked out, like physically.
Yes. Doors locked. He complained about a total lack of transparency. He said that party unity goes out the window when it becomes inconvenient. He basically described a process where a few insiders decided how to vote, and the actual elected members were just supposed to fall in line.
So they preach democracy to the public, but when it's time to make a big decision inside their own party, they lock the doors.
That's the pattern. It's top-down control. The chair, Bichotte Hermelyn, she runs it like a personal fiefdom. And you have these secret meetings to decide the fate of the governor's endorsement, while elected members are standing outside wondering what's going on.
And it wasn't just the outsiders who were complaining. You had big names in the party calling this out publicly.
Right. State Senator Andrew Gounards and Councilmember Alexa Avilés both used the word embarrassing. They were watching their own party leadership just clown themselves in public. They knew how this looked to voters.
It is embarrassing. It looks amateur. But there was one reaction I thought was really telling. It came from Councilmember Rodneyse Bichotte.
Yes. She refused to even participate in the fight, and her reasoning was devastating. She pointed out that while the party bosses are playing these games, real people are suffering. She specifically mentioned Haitian immigrants in her district who need help right now.
That's the contrast right there. You have constituents who are struggling, maybe facing legal issues, economic hardship, and their leaders are spending 48 hours fighting over who gets a seat at the cool kids table.
It is a massive distraction. Councilmember Narcisse was basically saying, I have real work to do, but for the party leadership, their work is protecting their own influence.
So the goal isn't governance. The goal is power preservation.
Exactly. And that brings us to the end of the week. We have the tantrum, the insults, the secret meetings, but then comes Friday, the climb down.
Yeah, how did they get out of this corner they painted themselves into after all that rage, after unendorsing the governor?
It ended with a whimper. They folded. Completely.
Seriously?
After all the rage, after the vote to rescind. By Friday morning, just before the state convention was set to start, the Brooklyn Dems put out a statement. And they said they were ready to move forward in unity.
Move forward in unity. That's politician speak for we lost.
It's politician speak for we surrender. They realized they had absolutely no leverage. Governor Hochul has high approval ratings right now. She has a massive lead in the polls. She didn't need them as much as they thought she did.
So they tried to bluff the governor, and she just called it.
She didn't even have to call it. She just waited. She let them stew in their own mess. The backlash was so bad, and they looked so foolish for unendorsing the likely winner that they had no choice but to crawl back.
That has to be humiliating for the leadership. I mean, imagine doing that in your own job, telling your boss, I quit, I hate you, on Wednesday, and then showing up Friday saying, just kidding, I love working here.
It makes them look incredibly weak and chaotic. Just think about the timeline. Wednesday, we rescind. We are enraged. Friday, just kidding. We are united. It's a slip-flop for the ages.
It really undermines their authority. If you're a voter or even a low-level politician in Brooklyn, why would you listen to these people? They clearly have no strategy.
They don't. It's reactive. It's emotional. It's incompetent. And that's the scary part. These aren't just people running a social club. This is the organization that effectively chooses who runs our courts. They pick the judges. They pick the city council candidates.
That's a really good point. This isn't just about the governor. This machine controls the pipeline for the entire legal and political system in Brooklyn.
That's right. If you want to be a judge in Brooklyn, you usually have to go through the party machine. If you want to run for office, you need their blessing. And we just watched the people who hold that power act like teenagers.
So what does this all mean for the future? Hochul got her endorsement back. Adams is on the ticket. Is everything fine now?
On the surface, sure. They'll take the photos, they'll smile on stage, they'll pretend they're all best friends. But those cracks are there. You can't unring that bell. We know now that the Brooklyn party, the biggest machine in the state, is hostile to the governor's number 2.
And we know they doubt her competence. That quote from Yeager is going to haunt them.
Exactly. We know they doubt her competence, and we know they're willing to blow things up if they feel disrespected. That tension doesn't just go away, it's going to fester.
And from a conservative perspective, or really just any skeptic's perspective, this just reinforces everything you suspect about one-party rule.
It does. When one party has a monopoly on power, like the Democrats do in New York, they stop fighting for the voters and start fighting each other for the spoils. They get lazy. They get arrogant. And they get sloppy. This flip-flop is a perfect example of sloppiness born out of arrogance.
They thought they could dictate terms to the governor, and they found out they couldn't. But in the process, they showed all of us exactly who they are.
They showed us their priority is their own power, not the stability of the state.
It's a pretty damning picture. We've covered the ego, the lack of consultation, the identity politics infighting, and the embarrassing reversal. That's a lot to take in for just 48 hours of news.
It was a dense 48 hours. But it's important not to let it just be a news cycle story. We have to remember this when these people ask for our votes. We have to remember how quickly they abandoned their unity the moment they didn't get their way.
Absolutely. When they talk about competence
Right.
and solidarity, we have to look at what they actually do. And what they did here was panic, fight, and flop.
And then pretend it never happened. They want us all to have amnesia.
Move forward in unity. I don't think voters should let them off the hook that easily.
I certainly hope they don't.
So we're coming to the end of our deep dive here. We've dissected this chaotic week from the Brooklyn Democratic Party. We've seen the infighting, the incompetence. As we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
You know, we talk a lot about the machine in New York politics, but machines are supposed to be efficient. They're supposed to work. This machine is broken. And I want the listener to think about this. If the people running New York spend this much energy fighting over who gets a seat at the table, do they have any energy left to actually run the state? When the machine breaks down, it's the voters who get stuck with the bill.
That is a sobering thought. They're fighting for seats, and we're left paying the price.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.